Sometimes in our journey off the beaten path, daylight fades, the trail disappears before our eyes, the night skies awaken, and the sounds of the wild grow louder. As enthusiasts, do we stop? Do we turn back and wait for sunrise? No, we come prepared, we light the way forward, and we keep pushing towards our destination.
I want to do a little bit of an unboxing of these. Again, I'd imagine that this is not the direct type of packaging that you'll receive these in. I did go ahead and open these up, just kind of get an idea of what I was working with. These are going to be these are the Hawkglow LED off-road lights. I have not fully unpackaged them. I just actually opened them up, just looked at them. I put them back just as they were. So I'd imagine you'll get their packaging. So let's go ahead and unbox them. Even for this promotional type packaging, I'd imagine, it does seem like it's boxed very well. Some foam padding. We have a wiring harness right here. It's a very intact wiring harness. And what I like about this, I saw, which I haven't taken them out of the bags, there is actually these right here. Hold on, let me get you some clarity if I can. Yes, there's these right here, these plugs. So they are essentially kind of plug and play, but there's gonna have to be some wiring done because I'm gonna have to cut on this harness some to use the wireless switch panel that I have. But anyways, we'll go over that step by step on how to install these. And here's the lights themselves. Again, it has the plug versus actually having to use the cut and splicing and the wiring that I've done on the NiLights. And these lights look very nice. Again, they're packaged very nice. They're covered up. Let's go ahead and take this cover off, if I can. Just give me a second, guys. It's packaged very good. I may have to two-hand it if I can't do this with one hand. You do have the orange covers, the cover over top of them, like this, but also you can use the clear. And they have these turn signals, or these arrows right here that are orange. So these are going to be very nice. They look like they're going to be very, very bright, and they look very nice compared to the NiLights. Looks like they have some good heat dissipation in the back with their fins. And again, they have this nice wiring harness where you don't actually have to cut and splice. And I think the wire will be long enough to actually get it to run into the engine bay. So that's good. And what else it comes with? It comes with some good mounting hardware. So we will see if this is actually stainless, and time will tell. And I'll show you something. I'm gonna be completely transparent. We'll come up here with the NiLights, and I was getting ready to have to repair or replace this hardware anyways. It's really bright out. Gosh, it's bright. Now, these right here, these bolts, they're not good, or the studs, the bolts, whatever, they're not very good because they're actually rusting already. And this has only been on there for a month, maybe a month and a couple weeks. And these brackets, I don't know, they may have to be a little bit touched up too right there. I don't know exactly why, but I think they might actually be rusting too, where the bolts have grabbed in there some. We might have to touch it up with a little bit or powder coat them or something. But anyways, I hope this hardware, and it looks like this hardware for the Hawkglow LEDs or off-road lights are much better. They're much, much better. You have some hardware, some actually installation hardware, the Allen wrenches they send you, which is very nice. It's a very complete kit. Has some more wiring. Again, I have to figure out the wiring. No big deal. And of course you have your second light, and that is right here. So all in all, it's a very complete kit for some off-road ditch lights. And I'd imagine, depending on what application you're using these on, if you're using them on a Jeep, you could use them maybe on a bumper. You could attach them to your bumper, however you wanted to use them. But again, I'm gonna be using these as ditch lights up on top of the hood. If you had a bracket, you could probably use them as fogs. We'll see what type they project or how they project. How far they project. and I'm gonna test them in comparison to the NiLights. So we'll have some before and afters. I may go to a small trail that I know at night, off-roading, and see how bright they are in comparison. I don't know if I'll do necessarily or have a comparison to the NiLights off-road, because honestly, those are more floodlights. I think these are more direct lighting. We shall see. But let's go ahead and get this installed. Let's go ahead and get everything unpackaged. The wiring harness, I'll walk you step by step on how to actually splice this up. If you're using a gang switch panel, we'll go ahead and get this taken care of. Let's get started. This install should not be really difficult whatsoever, because what we'll be doing is taking off the NiLights, and it's just basically plug and play. I'll walk you through step by step on how to do that, how to actually take the NiLights off. I'm gonna do just some comparing and contrasting of the NiLights to the Hawkglows. The good thing about the Hawkglows is it actually has both a daytime running light, which more or less just a low beam, and also a high beam. In the compare and contrast, actually on the NiLights, I went off-roading this past week. I'll try to take the Hawkglows on a similar type of route just to show you how bright they are off-roading. I'll be honest with you, these ditch lights, or ditch lights in a sense, are very helpful. I think that you'll be rather impressed, and I do think these Hawkglows are actually going to be quite a bit brighter, just from what I can tell thus far. These actually do have two settings. They have, like I said, a low beam and a high beam. So the wiring's going to be a little bit different than my last video on the gang panel the switch panel. And I'll walk you through that. The wiring harness they actually submitted, that I actually maybe showed you in the unboxing, you might have seen them just a little bit earlier. We won't be using all that wiring harness. If you didn't have the switch panel, you probably would. And the harness is very nice. As you saw, it's kind of very all-inclusive. There's a switch included, all your wiring's included, everything's there. However, again, with the switch panel, you don't need all that. You'll be able to chop a lot of that out. We'll go through that, and let's get started. So the first thing you want to do if you have a switch panel is just take the top lid off your switch panel and get everything disconnected so you can actually get this one set up, or these lights set up. I'm gonna have to disconnect the NiLights, or NiLights, how you want to say it. I'm sure there is an appropriate way to say that. I just don't know how to pronounce it. If somebody wants to correct me in the comments below, you can, absolutely, go for it. So I only have 3 screws in here. I think there was a 4th one, but for some reason, just didn't line up right. You gotta be careful with these, are tiny screws. You never want to drop one in your engine bay, especially these small. And I have not disconnected my battery. I know some of these switch panels actually have almost like a switch or like a fuse that you can switch on and off to switch the switch panel off from the battery. However, the way I have mine wired, if the key's off and the lights are off, the panel should be off. There is a light inside the switch panel that turns green when it's on and it's not on, or it's not green when it's off. I think it's red maybe, possibly. So I'll see if the light's on. If it's off, then we should be good to go. There shouldn't be any power to it, and we should be good to work on it. Okay, the panel is off. I'm gonna set these screws aside and we'll get started. So first what we'll do is we'll disconnect these wires so we can get the power off the NiLights or NiLights, and that'll get us set up to go for the next wiring, or the wiring. So we're gonna go ahead and disconnect these from the panel. Shouldn't take much, really. Ease them on out. Okay, I'm gonna screw these back down, these screws, back into the switch panel. Now, if you had power going to your switch panel, you do not want to do this. You want to disconnect your battery, but the light is not green, so we are good to go. It's not on. So that's disconnected. So what we're gonna do next is I'm gonna undo these zip ties that I had put on initially to keep everything kind of secure. Okay. There's that. And I'll get the wiring across here, undo it. And that's basically done. Now all I have to do next is undo the NiLights from the brackets there and pull that out. So let's go up here right quick and get the socket and nut, or the socket and socket wrench that I need to actually get these taken out. One quick second. So first what you're gonna have to do is get in here and actually loosen these 2 or 4 bolts up here up top to make the light a little bit looser on this bracket anyways. Now each bracket's gonna be a little bit different because I have to get to the other bolt right here and here, and this is just gonna make it easier on me. So it finally did come off. I used a 13 and a 14, but I don't think the 14 was the right size for the top nut. It must have been an American unit. I don't have that, but I do plan on using the bracket again, but I'll probably not use this hardware again because honestly, it started to rust. This hardware, the NiLight hardware, it's also, I don't know, the paint, I guess it started to rust too. I guess I'll sand it and paint it or do something with it. It just wasn't, it's not the best hardware, to be honest. The Rhino brackets, they're not really rusting. The rust right here, I think, or the rust color, is from this. I will show you, but this is from the NiLight. See if I can zoom in. I don't know if it'll let me, but it's starting to rust right in here. And this has only been on there for about a month. So let's go to the other side. I did actually have to take the light off first to get to those bottom 2 nuts. After we get the other one on, we'll just pull these out and then start putting the Hawkglow LED off-road lights on. So as mentioned, this wiring harness has your resistors, or your relays, I'm sorry, your relays. It has actually your connections, which the connections are actually really nice. These are plug and play into the new lights versus actually having this solder or actually just wire into directly. Or, you know, use electrical tape, however you want to do it. It actually has a switch. Let me get that and show you. Has a switch. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. So you can see it has a switch for both the high and low function, which we won't need. And then it has a fuse, and it's a 10 amp fuse, I do believe, both for a positive and negative terminal for the battery. So we don't need any of that. We don't need the relay, the fuse, the switch. All we need is the wiring for the lights. So what I'm gonna do, we need all the wiring. I'm gonna cut all the other excess wiring off since we have the switch panel. So right here, I'm gonna cut directly through it. And there we go. That's all we need. The rest of it we don't. And that will leave you, and I'll tear this away so you can see, and I need this actually tear it away so I can see. Give me 1 second, I'll probably have to use, if I can, this maybe. There's a better way to probably do that. Of course, having a utility knife, but we'll use this. That leaves you 3 wires. And from my understanding, you only need to use 1 ground on one of the switches, and you have 2 positives. You're gonna have a white positive and a red positive. The red's gonna be your main light, and the white's gonna be your driving light, or the low beam. So let's go ahead and get these wired, or let's go ahead and get the lights mounted first, and then we'll get them wired, okay? I just wanted to go ahead and show you what you needed and go ahead and get the wiring harness prepared. Okay, I'll be right back with the lights. All right, guys, I've had a couple of setbacks here, just in the sense of actually getting everything kind of wired up. I'll show you kind of the reason why here in just 1 second. The reason being, the wires coming from the actual ditch lights to the actual wiring harness were a little bit short, so I thought I was going to have to cut it, and I did. So I reconnected it. But anyways, let's see if this actually works. We're going to wire it up to the terminals. And again, we only need to connect it to 1 negative. And I'm going to use the 20 amp and the 15 amp on the panel here. So to figure that out, it's going to be kind of a little bit difficult looking at it from this angle, but we will. So once I figure this out, I'll come back and I'll get it wired up and I'll show you what to do. These are the Hawkglow, 172 watts from my understanding, lots total. I've done this with the NiLights of what they look like in each setting, because this, the Hawkglows, keep on saying that wrong, I want to say it right. The Hawkglows actually have 2 different settings, plus some arrows around each light for some DRL type look, more or less. I don't have the DRL set up or the signal light function set up on these. I didn't really see a purpose or need for me anyways. Now you may see it differently. You may need to use that. There is a wire for it. You can use that and set it up yourself. But anyways, so to do this, let's go ahead and just test each function. I think I remember the way I had these buttons listed or set up. I need to mark them a little bit better. So let's go with the low setting first, turn them on. Well, that's all of them on at once. So let me see if I can get to the low setting again. Okay, that is the low setting. So we have the park lights on and the low setting right here at this very moment. So as you can see, that has a good, well, in the way I have these lights turned. Now you could have these flipped around, you can have them flipped any direction you want. But for my situation with the wiring, I had to flip them this way. So the low setting is more directed towards up. Okay, so let's go with the high setting. This is all the lights on. Now again, this is going to be more towards the downward setting right here, or everything's lighted up. It's more on the hood. A lot of coverage. Let me kind of come up here. You can see how far up that goes, that lights. That's all the way up there at that tree. So you're getting a lot of coverage everywhere. It lights it up more or less like daytime. So, and this is just the Hawkglow ditch lights. So let's turn on the actual headlights themselves. So I'm gonna turn those on as well too. So we have the headlights on now. So we have every light on. This is low beams. So as you can see right here, low beams, plus the lights. You got a lot of light there. Let's turn the high beams on. That's high beams, that's everything. That's everything. I'm sure on the trails you'll have no problems. And guys, that concludes our little test. So again, you'll see the off-roading section, or well, just a little drive section with the Hawkglows, and it's going to be a little bit shorter than the testing that I have with the NiLights. That's just because of timing at the moment. But I do hope that this has been helpful. So let's go on with the drive. So here we go. Here is one setting. Again, I hope there's nobody getting down here camping, because this is about ready to get bright. There is the first setting. There's the total setting of those. This is with my low beams on. Here's with my high beams on. So this is total. All lights, high beams, low beams. Let's turn that first setting off. Okay, this is all the lights off. Low setting. So as you can see, these would be very handy off-roading. These are much brighter than the NiLights or NiLights by far. Light up everything. All right, let's go and turn these off. Okay. So there you saw it. I hate that there wasn't much of an off-roading adventure with those. I just wanted to kind of show you all, give you all an idea, a glimpse into what that looks like. That is very much, that's quite a bit brighter than the NiLights or NiLights. You saw it from inside the vehicle and hopefully from the outside too. So kind of give you both a good perspective of how far it throws further out and up and sideways even. So, I hope you enjoyed that little test, and I hope that you all will, if you all would like to purchase these yourself, there's a description in the bottom here, discount code. If you'd like to go buy those, go for it. I think you'd be happy with these. These are easy to install. If you don't do like me and cut the one side, they're plug and play, at least on the ditch lights themselves, the harness. So it's actually quite easy to install if you have your own place where you want to mount them. And you can install them in about anything, any off-road type vehicle, Jeep, Colorado truck, whatever it may be. They're very universal. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this review.